There we are. Another Saturday here at Final Cut TV. Final Cut TV, another Saturday. This is like 220 something that I've done of these. Every Saturday. Let's do this. First comment of the morning. I, nobody. Good morning, Richard. Can't stay long. I have an in-person event to perform at this morning. Yeah, I can't stay long either. I have to do this live stream. So we got some interesting things finally happening for the summer for Final Cut Pro. I'm just going to check on. Yeah, we got a lot of people watching already. Very, very cool. So, yeah, one of the things we're going to talk about in a little bit is this new Final Cut Pro cookbook. It's called a cookbook. It does not teach you how to do fried chicken in Final Cut Pro, although one of the requests that I had for Final Cut Pro is a drop-down menu that said make cappuccino, but they haven't instituted that yet. They have not instituted that yet, so we'll see what's involved with this cookbook. We actually have the author of the cookbook coming on. So, Mike Eddy. Let's see what this is. Daniel says, good morning from, oh yeah, you're in Canada. I can never pronounce this. Beauharnois. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, as an American, that's what it looks like. So we'll go with that. Our friend Daniel. I've talked to Daniel a few times in Facebook Messenger. But as usual, you have any comments about Final Cut Pro? Any news about Final Cut Pro? Any new plugins? Any new tutorials? Let's let everybody see them. Let's let everybody see them. And we do have this, of course, our backyard, Final Cut Pro HQ. It's beautiful, beautiful weather right now. It's, let me see what the temperature is. 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius. I don't do the conversion. When I was a kid in grade school, I went to St. John's Elementary in Silver Spring, Maryland, from kindergarten through 8th grade, through 9 years. And like in the middle of those years, 5th grade, 6th grade, they told us that the U.S. is going to convert to the metric system. So we had to learn metrics versus imperial, inches, pounds, gallons, liters. And of course, that never happened. So that was a waste of time for us. Because since we don't use it, they said, oh, we're going to convert to the metric system. No, we did not convert to the metric system. I do have this, my Snoopy mug. I do like to mute when I drink coffee so you don't hear the slurp. Sometimes I forget, but usually I get in there pretty well. So, what do we have? What's going on in the world of Final Cut Pro? We're still waiting on Final Cut Pro 11.1.2, which at the very least, it'll be a bug fix because people are reporting bugs with 11.1.1, which came out, 11.1.1 came out, no, 11.1 came out right before NAB in March, came out at the end of March, right like a week before NAB, which is what I suggested to the Final Cut Pro team on this live stream. I said, if you're going to put out an update to Final Cut Pro, put it out before NAB. So that helps with a little bit of buzz at NAB. Of course, NAB is not doing too well these days. So, good evening from Denmark. Ready with a cup of espresso. Richard, when you compare editing on your M4 Pro with your M1 Max, what is the greatest difference when editing a complex timeline? You know, my M1 Max is doing a fantastic job. My 2021 M1 Max, I got a top of the line. Except for I didn't get the 4 terabyte SSD that Apple charges a king's ransom for. What did I get? Did I get a 2 terabyte? I don't know what I got. I didn't get the 8 terabyte, whatever the heck it was, the jump up from, maybe I got a 4 terabyte. Yeah, I got a 4 terabyte on the 2016, and I got a 2 terabyte on my Mac Mini Pro, which is 2024. the M4. You know what? I don't know comparing the two. I think the M4 probably is better. It's probably faster, even though it has, I think, smaller hard drive and it has less RAM, I think. I'll have to do the specs at some point. I got the best graphics card, the best CPU on both machines. I got 64 gigabytes of RAM on the Mac Mini. Let me see. Yeah, 64 gigabytes of RAM on the Mac Mini Pro. The Apple M4 Pro has got 64 gigabytes. I don't know if my 2016 M1 Max has 64 or 128 or 96. I'm not sure. How many milliliters metric your coffee mug? You have to tell me. Tell me how many milliliters this is. It's a big cup. It's not a small size coffee cup. It's quite big, so I don't know. There. I do make strong coffee. You got it high from Korea. Now, of course, I can't pronounce that since I don't read Korean. Fantastic. I'm so glad you could tune in today. How many people we got watching now? Like 40 people live so far. And we just started. I don't know if we had anybody from Korea prior. So people that are watching, we have 40 people, 45 people watching live. X, YouTube, Facebook Live, all at the same time. 40 people. If you've never commented before, comment on the stream so we know where you're from. Comment on the stream so we know where you're from. And introduce yourself to the Final Cut TV community. Now, there's two things we're waiting on. Final Cut Pro 11.1.2, which might just be a bug fix. Could they sneak a feature or two in? Of course they could. They've done that before in August, at the end of August the 28th, something like that, Final Cut Pro 10.4.11. I think that's right. And they gave us the proxy workflow at the end of August one time, which is a couple features in that update. So could they do it again? Of course they could. There's no rhyme or reason anymore to the numbering system for Final Cut Pro. There's no rhyme or reason. They updated Final Cut Pro 11 at the last Creator Summit last November and gave us 11.1 5 months later in March. And so that's like less than 6 months to a full point update. Usually a full point update took 1 year or longer, many, many times, many years. Nowadays, it just, this is what they do. Final Cut Pro team gathers in the room and they say, what are we going to call this new version of Final Cut? And they go like this. Let's pick one of these out. Oh, we'll call it this. That's what they do. And that's what it seems like they do. I've never been in the room, although I have met them multiple times. So one of the people that I met multiple times at the Creative Summit from the Final Cut Pro team is Peter Stenauer. And I had conversations with him last time, and he's left Apple. He's moved to England and some kind of maybe a startup company he's working with now or whatever. So he was with the Final Cut Pro team for quite a while, but he's no longer there. Oh, here we go. Snoopy mug holds 400 milliliters because that's my partner, Jane. We have another Snoopy mug out there, and she poured water from this into a measuring Pyrex thing, and it hit 400 meters. So now we know, 400 meters. Thank you, Jane. Let me see what this says. From YouTube, I am running Final Cut Pro community like 6K on Facebook. Excellent. From Intelligent Assistants, I just added Chat FCP AI plugin to have fun. So has anybody used that AI playground thing that's in the new version of Final Cut? If you have, raise your hand. It's very cartoonish. Everything that comes up to me is very cartoonish. It's not, what, image playground, is that what they call it? Yeah, I think something like that. So, like, for example, I did a picture of myself, screen grab from one of these episodes, and it doesn't look like me at all. It looks like a college professor that maybe I had in college, and it doesn't look like me at all. So it's not very accurate. It looks very cartoonish. I'm not using it, except if I need a birthday cake or I need a picture of a car or a picture of a tank or something, that's fine. But the image that it grabbed of me was not very good. Never used Playground on Final Cut Pro. I've used it a few times. They also have it just in Mac OS, but it just doesn't, it's not very good. Let me just pull it up here. I'll pull it up and I'll show you what I mean. Image Playground app, and I'll take a picture. This is what I'll show you what it looked. This is what it said I looked like. Let me pull that up. Where's my, so this is what it said I looked like. Now, does that look like me? It's just generically, very generically, yeah, a little bit. But that looked like my professor in college. That's what it looks like. To me, that doesn't look like me at all. The glasses, the shape of the nose, whatever. This looks like somebody I don't know, but that's what it says, Image Playground says that I look like. What do you think? I don't think so. Turn that off. Let's go back to here. Use it to create an image on a single die in Fire. I had tried Image Playground, but it's way too limited in what it can do, so I stopped using it. It's very cartoonish. It doesn't get the intricacies of my identity, for example, so I won't be using it. But, I mean, I'm glad it's there. It's just there. But speaking of that, so Image Playground's available on the Mac. You don't need Final Cut Pro. It's also available in Final Cut Pro. One of the things that came in the iPhone 16 Pro Max is the audio mix. Almost a year ago, the audio mix came in the iPhone. You still, after all this time, don't have access to that audio mix in Final Cut Pro. It's amazing. They introduced a feature in the iPhone and they don't have the tools to use in Final Cut Pro. You have no audio mix in Final Cut from the iPhone 16 Pro Max. However, the audio mix is available on the Mac. In the Photos app, if you import a video that had audio mix on the Mac, you have access to the 4 different microphone settings in the Photos app. But you still, to this day, do not have it inside of Final Cut Pro. Very, very bizarre. I used Image Playground to generate 2 stills for my last short film. Absolutely. Like I said, if I want a picture of a birthday cake, perfect. If I want a picture of a certain kind of car, that's fine. But it just seems cartoonish to me. Chat FCP is still mostly a chatbot, but I think you can add sound and picture with video, plus help with script. Well, I understand the capabilities that it's can have, but right now it's very limited, I think. I mean, it's just cartoonish. ChatGPT also does much the same. Try to ask it to take a young photo of yourself and old, and it gets your hair closed, but completely replaces your face with some random. It's just bizarre to me. Hi, Richard. How are you use Image Playground with Motion? That's my friend Simon Villani that I met at the last Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. He's from Italy. I don't know how to use it with motion. Image Playground's not supported for Korea. That's interesting. Maybe a good thing, it's a good thing, there are new people coming to the Final Cut Pro team. The year from Final Cut Pro 10.7, 10.8 to 11 hasn't been bad. It's just that DaVinci is so strong. So, yes, listen. There's no comparison between Final Cut Pro update schedule and DaVinci Resolve. They're not even in the same race. DaVinci Resolve is untouchable. They have incredible, Blackmagic, incredible feature updates, one after the other, this, that. Plus they update their hardware, plus they have new cameras, plus they update probably the best movie video app for the iPhone. The Blackmagic camera app is fantastic and it's free. The Final Cut Pro team knows about DaVinci Resolve. They mentioned them 2 years ago at the Creative Summit 2023. They singled out DaVinci Resolve and gave them a compliment. Said that's a very good NLE. But they also said, look, we hear, this is what they said the last 2 times, we hear your concerns about the progress of updates of Final Cut Pro. But we know Final Cut Pro the best, meaning Apple, hardware, Mac OS, etc. And we're going to, we update Final Cut Pro based on our inside knowledge and our schedule. They're not in a race with DaVinci Resolve. And nobody can beat DaVinci Resolve for updates and stuff. Nobody can beat them. They're the top of the heap. And I really, really like DaVinci Resolve. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to be using Final Cut Pro, because I am going to continue to use Final Cut Pro. So his comment about maybe it's a good thing there are new people coming to the Final Cut Pro team. Well, that's a mixed blessing, isn't it? You're losing people with experience, and yes, you could use some new people. I don't know if that's going to affect the schedule. I don't think the schedule is going to be changing. I think if you want Final Cut Pro, it's going to be slow and steady. Slow and steady. We'll talk with Mike about that when we get him on in a few minutes. I have tried Image Playground, create man on a horse. I got a man and a horse, not on a horse, exactly. Yes, CapCut is also insane with their features and stuff, but CapCut has a 47-page end-user license agreement. I wouldn't touch CapCut because of that. 47 pages you have to agree to in a PDF before you can use CapCut. I ain't doing that. Am I alone in feeling this way? The longer we wait for an update to Final Cut Pro, the higher my hopes become for an update with features, and doesn't happen, I become extremely worried Final Cut Pro. It's up and down, isn't it? It's up and down with Final Cut Pro. In 2019, we went to the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. People spent a lot of money to get hotel rooms, to get airfare, and there was zip from the Final Cut Pro team. No update at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. So at that point, my expectations took a nosedive for years. For years, from 2019, of course, we had the COVID era, which is not that's not the reason, but it took a nosedive. Now, last year, what I've tried to do with the Creative Summit nowadays is temperate, what's the right word? I want to moderate my expectations. I don't want them to get real high, and I don't want them to be real low. So they've been like in the middle ground. Last year, the Final Cut Pro team did this. They did such a great job at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit 2024 from a lot of different reasons. They were just friendly as they could be. They had great presentations. They gave us Final Cut Pro 11. So my expectations went up a bit. And I'd say they're still in the mid-range. Still in the mid-range for this year. But anyway, you're not alone in feeling that way. I go up and down too, and it's sometimes frustrating. Look, 13 and a half years it took to get a scrolling timeline. That was my number one request for 13 and a half years. They finally got it. Now my 2 number one requests are text-based editing. DaVinci Resolve's had it for over 2 years. I love DaVinci Resolve's implementation of text-based editing. It is phenomenal. Last week, I selected 8 clips in the, they call it the media pool. Selected 8 clips, right-clicked on them, and said, transcribe audio. It transcribed all 8 clips, all at the same time. And I can select all 8 of those clips and say, you know, transcribe AI, transcribe audio, and it'll bring up the transcript of all 8 clips into one document. It's phenomenal. And then you can drop clips into the timeline, etc. So they have a great implementation of text-based editing. I use it all the time for long form. I don't use it for a 3-minute video typically, but for long form editing, rough editing, it's phenomenal. So number 1 is text-based editing for Final Cut Pro 11.2 maybe this year. And the number 2, which is a big one, is the roles-based audio mixer. Those are my 2 big ones right now because I know they have a roles-based audio mixer in Final Cut. I know they have it. They just haven't released it. So we'll see. None of the Pro apps support magnetic timeline except CapCut. LumaFusion has an advanced magnetic timeline, or they call it something else, an enhanced magnetic timeline. So LumaFusion on the iPad, on the iPhone, on the Mac, on Android, and on Chromebooks has an enhanced magnetic timeline. So that's really good. Even far away from DaVinci Resolve presented a challenge for avid media composer. Not today, but Blackmagic design is serious. It most certainly is. Look at this. Hi, Richard, from the Three Choirs Festival in Hereford. Production watching your live stream. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We got about 60 people watching right now. Got a bunch of thumbs up as usual. Yes, they are not in a race, but a few years ago, they were closer to the competition. New features from other NLEs will come a year later. Now it feels like 3 years. The one thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to defend the Final Cut Pro's pace of innovation and feature updates. That's completely on them. It is slow. It's to me, it's been glacial. Going from Final Cut Pro 10.4 to 10.5, for example, I think it was like 2 to 3 years. And when we finally got 10.5, the big feature was Apple Silicon native. Really? From 10.4 to 10.5? Now, 10.4 had a lot of updates. I think 10.4 went all the way to 10.4.11, 10.4.11. So they had lots of updates. But when we got to 10.5, the big feature update was Apple Silicon native. And then 10.5 to 10.6, and 6 to 7, and 7 to 8, and then 10.8 to 10.11 to 11. I'm not going to, I agree with everybody that it's too slow. Is it going to change? I don't think so. I think that's just what we got to put up with. I think that's what we got to put up with. I'm not planning on changing from Final Cut Pros. My needs are way more than meet what I can do with Final Cut, but I do understand what people who do editing for a living will want certain features added. Well, text-based editing's been out. Premiere's had it, Avid's had it, Blackmagic DaVinci was had it over 2 years. And we got a very rudimentary transcribe audio in Final Cut Pro right now, which is a good start. But it really has to do more than just that. So, yes, text-based editing. I love text-based editing. Now, when I'm talking about text-based editing, like I said, it's not really for a short social media post. It's more for when I do an hour, 2 hours. I can select 8 clips in DaVinci Resolve and say transcribe audio, and it transcribes all 8 of them at the same time. I mean, it might do one after the other, but I don't have to pick one or the other. It's phenomenal. And then I can just go through and do a rough cut just by text. Instead of watching and listening in real time, I can go through paragraph, put this paragraph in the timeline. Let me go down a little bit. Take this paragraph, drop it in the timeline, and I do a rough cut very, very quickly. So Premiere Pro, that's what I've heard, is also good for text-based editing. Image Playground and Final Cut Pro for me is like a trailer hitch on on the Civic. It's there, but it really isn't that useful. Not yet. Maybe I'm sure it'll get better. I'm sure it'll get better. So, yeah, audio mixer absolutely would be my biggest need, including setting RX as an external editor like in Logic and better keyframe. At least XML to Logic works better finally. So we have some, why is that small? That I do something with my mouse? There we go. We have 3 video editors sat here during rehearsal, 1 Premiere, 1 Final Cut Pro, 1 DaVinci. Interesting conversation going on while watching the live stream. So I am a big fan of DaVinci Resolve. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I love DaVinci Resolve. It's a fantastic, fantastic NLE package. Imagine if you launched Final Cut Pro, and on one tab you had Logic Pro, one tab you had Motion, one tab you had Compressor, and you have 2 different editing scenarios, the cut page and a regular editing scenario, without launching the apps. You just hit a tab, and you can go from one to the other. That's what DaVinci Resolve does. And it tracks your project. If I go to Fairlight and do audio adjustments, it tracks it back to the video editing pane. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal way that they do that. Final Cut Pro, I love Final Cut Pro. Can't switch, use another NLE. I love Apple ecosystem. I agree with that. I'm a definite, I like Apple stuff as well. I have to use another NLE. I feel old and sad. So I use LumaFusion, Final Cut Pro, and DaVinci Resolve. Final Cut Pro is absolutely my first one that I go to. I've been using it for over 20 years, and I'm most familiar with it, and it's the fastest for editing of all the other ones. I'm getting better on DaVinci Resolve. LumaFusion is a different issue because I use it on the iPad or my iPhone. So let's get a few more comments up, and then we'll bring Mike on. Mike Eddy, of the author of the Final Cut Pro Cookbook. We'll find out what kind of recipes he has in 1 minute. It's obvious that Final Cut Pro is not high on Apple's priority list. Hardware and system OS is a priority. Well, in the grand scheme of things, you're correct. The iPhone, the iPads, hardware, Mac OS, but it's still there. They still have a Final Cut Pro team, and they're still paying them. And let's just say 5 million Final Cut Pro seats have been sold. Okay, 5 million, because it was 2.5 million in 2018. So here we are 7 years later, 7 years later, 2.5 million in 2018. 7 years later, we're probably at 5 or 6 million. That's 1.5 billion with a B dollars that Final Cut Pro, the app itself, has generated, let alone hardware updates that you got to use a more modern version of Mac. So it sells Macs by the gazillions. So Graham says, go DaVinci. Final Cut Pro is back up. That's fine. I have no problem with that. I like Final Cut Pro as my go-to. It's fast. It's just faster editing. If you don't experience it, it's hard to realize what we're saying. Okay, let's do this. I edited my first feature film cut on Final Cut, 1 hour, 44 minutes long. Edited Final Cut without any issues, absolutely. The Resolve system doesn't track to the Final Cut Pro system. They are really 2 different scenarios. No, I know, but I'm saying if they did, if Final Cut did have tabs for the different apps rather than launching this one, and the XML, you got to use XML to go back and forth, and Logic doesn't read Final Cut Pro XML. You can't go back from Logic to Final Cut because Logic doesn't care about the video. They only care about the audio. It's a mess. It's a real mess. Would be a great question to ask the Final Cut Pro team. Why don't they get other apps using tabs, or at least, well, I don't think they're gonna do it. But I really like DaVinci Resolve's version if they could. I currently use Final Cut Pro as my main editing tool while utilizing DaVinci Resolve, Premiere Pro, and CapCut as complementary plugins. It's interesting, complementary plugins. So, similar to integrated functionality of former Final Cut Studio, harmonized various features of color. Yes, absolutely. If you're going to stick with Final Cut Pro, that's what they're going to give us. I don't think they're going to change that. Audio text-based editing. I handle audio editing, detailed text-based edits through Premiere Pro, visual effects, skin smoothing, and subtitles. Yikes, you got a lot of comments. All right, so we're going to bring on Eddie now because I'm tired of talking. I want to talk to Eddie and talk to him about his book. And also, you can ask questions from Eddie as well. I'm sorry, Mike. Eddie's his last name, Mike. We're going to bring him on now. Now, I'm going to turn his audio on for one thing, and then I'm going to bring him up.
Okay.
Fantastic. Now, you got to start answering some of these questions, Mike. I've been trying to answer them. I'm trying to get to the bottom of the list and then bring you on, but I can't keep. So what do you think, before we start talking about your book, what do you think about the feature update pace of the current version of Final Cut? Say from 7 to 8 to 11. What is your opinion?
Oh, I would agree. It's glacial. Although I had to laugh. This Final Cut Pro cookbook that I've been working on, it ended up being way larger than I thought, and it took a year for me to get through it. I mean, carefully going through all the steps, and there were like 2 updates to Final Cut while I'm in the middle of editing this book. I had to go back and do screenshots. I had to add some feature recipes and things like that. So yes, maybe the updates are a little bit slow, but for me anyway, they came at inopportune times because I was in the middle of trying to do all my screenshots.
So do you have a PDF version of your book and a hard copy or a Kindle version? I know you have a PDF and a hard copy, yes.
Yes, on the Amazon website, if you do a search for Final Cut Pro and or Final Cut Pro Cookbook, you'll find it, and it's #1 right now, new release in Apple OS. And if you want to go to the cover there, Richard, go to page 1.
Yeah, I'm going to. I got to scroll all the way back to page 1. Here we go. So there it is, right there.
There it is. Yeah, if you look for that on Amazon, you can buy a paper version, and it comes with a PDF, or you can buy a Kindle version, and it comes with a PDF.
Now, the question is, are you going to update the Kindle and the PDF as Final Cut is updated?
Well, I think we're kind of planning on it. That's sort of like me talking with the publisher. We've kind of got a plan to, do some version updates. As maybe some, big updates come through. So
you don't need to do a bug fix, but if some features come in, that's one of the good things about PDFs and Kindle, that you can do an update. You don't have to reprint it.
Right.
That's a whole different issue.
Right, and the printing nowadays is more or less print on demand. So I mean, they're not having a whole big warehouse of books available. It's all pretty modern. Packed publishing has been around for a long time. If anyone's familiar with them, they do a lot of books on coding, your Python, stuff like that. A lot of AI books right now. So yeah, they're a wonderful publisher. Very up to date.
Excellent. So you said it took you a year?
Yeah.
I think it would have taken me longer.
Well, interestingly, because I taught video production at a community college in St. Paul, Minnesota for 17 years and was a Final Cut Pro user before that. And so I took a lot of the exercises and things I knew that students would get hung up on, and I tried to incorporate them into sort of this intermediate book.
Gotcha.
And so what I would do is I would record myself giving a lesson, and then I would transcribe it, and then that was the rough draft, and I would make it from there. So it ended up, I thought, oh, well, this is easy. I'll just do a bunch of my lessons. But you know how it is. You have to carefully describe, all the buttons. I used to say, okay, students, just, look, click on the thingy up here. Well, now I had to get the name of the button right. I had to consistently say, single click or double click.
Exactly.
Anyway,
exactly.
yes. So it did take longer. It was a big project. I'm very proud of it, though.
So I taught at the local community college in Westminster, Maryland, the Carroll Community College, and I taught. It was supposed to be agnostic, but they had all the Adobe suite. Right? The college did. They didn't have Final Cut, but it was supposed to be. I'm supposed to teach just general video editing and stuff. So I relearned Premiere at that point. It was on a PC. They didn't even have Macs. And I learned it and did my lessons based around that and try to keep it as agnostic as possible. But I could not resist bringing in my MacBook Pro with Final Cut Pro.
Right.
And I would show them, I'd hook up my MacBook Pro to the HDMI, port onto the screen, and I'd show them something, and they go, wow, can we do that? I said, no, not unless you got a Final Cut Pro yet. You have to get Final Cut Pro to do that. You can't do that in Premiere. One of the neatest things, there's a lot of things I liked about Premiere. I started on Premiere for the Mac back before they ditched the Mac back in the early days. One of the neatest things that I wish Final Cut Pro had, they have a transition. If you have two clips that both are at the end of their media, right? They both have no media, no handles whatsoever. You place a transition there, they will do freeze frames. They will automatically create freeze frames for you and let you transition between the freeze frames. Because I do that manually in Final Cut Pro a lot.
Yep.
But they have a transition that they did in those days. They have a transition that does it automatically.
Right.
Which I thought I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that always you're interviewing someone and they have just the right money shot? That's the perfect phrase. And then they look up and go, was that good?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man,
exactly.
I got to put a little freeze frame in there so I can dissolve. Yeah.
So you can use the audio, but you got to freeze them, or sometimes I'll just slow them down that one little section. That's one of the greatest things about Final Cut. No, there's a lot of great things. I don't know if other NLEs have it. Do they have blade speed like Final Cut has? Because I use that all the time.
Oh no, that's blade speed is in the book.
In the book, absolutely. So because I have my keyboard shortcuts, and I always tell people this, I customize them. Yep. And I use single keys for the most popular shortcuts that I want.
Right.
Blade speed is one of them. It's a single key because I use it all the time. I use it all the time. So that's one of the ones that has a single key. Yeah. And I'll zoom in and zoom out because Final Cut Pro zooming is just really, really ancient compared to like Logic Pro. You can set 3 different zoom levels and recall. You can set and recall 3 different zoom levels. Final Cut, it's Shift Z all the way out, Shift Z all the way back again. Shift Z goes all the way out. Black Magic, Shift Z, second time will go back to where it was.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it goes out and then it comes back. Same shortcut, so I really like that a lot. But Final Cut Pro zooming, I know you can do the Z key and select it, but I just have keyboard shortcuts, zoom in and zoom out. Single keys because I do that all the time. But I wish it had better logic. I can set 3 different zoom levels. It's easy to set and recall any of the 3. So
yeah, interesting crossover from different software.
Well, the interesting thing is my, say, top 10 keyboard shortcuts, I set them all exactly the same in Logic, And I set them all exactly the same in DaVinci Resolve. For example, Logic does not natively have JK&L, but it does what my version does. My version has JK&L because I use it all the time in Final Cut Pro.
Yep.
So things like that. It doesn't have blade speed either. It has. I don't have that in Logic, but a lot of this stuff, as much as I possibly can, I do single key shortcuts for the most popular 10 or 12 things that I do all the time. Like, for example, like zoom in and out is Apple plus and Apple minus. It's like, okay, I got to look at the keyboard and do my thumb on, I'm not Apple, Command, plus and minus.
You're
I can't do it from
yourself,
muscle memory.
Richard.
Yeah, that's true. I can't do it from muscle memory because the keyboard's too wide apart. I mean, the keys are too far apart. I got to look at it. So heck. So I just do one. I do one keyboard for zoom in and one letter for zoom out, and it's right next to JK&L. JK&L. I move over one, zoom in, zoom out. I don't have to look at the keyboard. Single stuff. Blade speed. I have a single. Deselect is another one that I use all the time. So I have a single keyboard for that. See, a shortcut. So anyway, and the other thing is, I save them in the cloud and on Dropbox.
Oh yeah, that's the neat thing I like about, and as I was trying to point that out in lots of different recipes, sort of at the end is, by the way, look at, you can say reveal in Finder, and now you can save it, take it to a different computer, or make a backup, that type of thing.
Well, in the keyboard command, you can actually export it, and I export it to iCloud into Dropbox, and I'll name them if I update them. I'll name them, Final Cut Pro.
Okay.
With the date, I'll usually put the date on it so I can access them from anywhere in the world. But as you know, when you're teaching a class, you got to use the default keyboard shortcuts, because otherwise you're going to confuse the heck out of people.
Yeah, got to start there.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of, I guess, maybe I was going to mention a little bit of the philosophy of the book too, is that it takes tips and tricks. But hopefully you can apply them to your footage. So it's not something that's specific. Oh, you can only do it with this type of, footage. I didn't want to get too complicated, but complicated enough that, when you were working with, your own footage, you could take this little, exercise of, using dark mode, blend, as a blend mode, and create your own effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So our friend Simon from Italy says, "What I'd like to have is an audio mixer." I think most everybody.
We're back with you.
I think everybody, people. Here's things that I find humorous, because I like looking for humor in almost every aspect of my life. You get different kinds of Final Cut Pro enthusiasts. Some of them, Final Cut Pro can do no wrong. Okay, that's not me. It's not me. But I'm not on the other end where I'm constantly, doing any kind of bashing of Final Cut Pro, because I don't do that either. But sometimes when people are they're talking about Final Cut Pro. Oh, you have to do it this way. Like when they were talking about rolls, doing audio in rolls, they said, "Oh, you don't need a mixer. You just put all your audio in a roll, and then you just do the adjustments." And I say, "No, that's complete clunk fest." Okay, I want a lane or a roll that has, I can apply an effect to the entire roll. Not go in and adjust each individual one, or just apply it to the compound clip, because that's just a clunky mess. Yeah. Now, I can't say how I know, but I know that Final Cut Pro has an audio rolls-based mixer. It has it. They just haven't released it yet. So it is coming. It's been they've had it for a while, but it'll obviously, they know that. They know they have to do that at some point. I mean, Final Cut Pro 7 had a mixer. Did you remember that? It had a mixing board. Yeah,
I do. Did it came up in a separate window?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you could play your timeline back and adjust the volume up and down, and it would record keyframes for you. It would record the keyframes as you adjusted the audio up and down. And you had you had 3 different levels.
Right.
Maximum keyframes, medium keyframes, and just minimal keyframes. Because you didn't have, the dots, dot, 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 dot. Yeah, that was Final Cut Pro 7. That was Final Cut Pro 7.
If you ran your video and you had your audio go through a audio mixer, a USB mixer, and as you did the adjustments, it would save those as keyframes after you stopped.
Right.
You manually did it. And I remember we had a mixer in the audio lab. I started editing Final Cut Pro before that, but I had my Train the Trainer certified trainer system, week-long training at Apple with Final Cut Pro 7, and Steve Martin was my trainer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
So it was a week-long. It was a conference room off to the side, but we, went to the gift shop, and it was a whole, visiting Mecca type of thing. But then, so now years later, Steve has written the foreword to the Final Cut Pro Cookbook, and I'm really thankful and grateful for his input.
Yeah, I've known Steve for a long time. I guess we probably met at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. So 2017, maybe 2018, 2019, something like that.
Yeah, I think this was 2008 or 2009 when I had my Train the Trainer.
Now, I was also a trainer. Mm-hmm. I went to Apple headquarters in New York City.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they didn't have a Final Cut Pro guy teaching the class. They had the guy that wrote the manuals for, what was that, Final Cut Server or whatever, something like that. He did not know Final Cut Pro at all. I went up in front of the class sometimes and said, this is how you do it.
Right.
And he didn't know Final Cut. And I was really disappointed from the aspect that Apple put him in charge of a Final Cut Pro training class, train-the-trainer class. So we had 15 to 20 people, and 2 of us passed the exam at the end. I'm one, and then a guy from Canada passed. Everybody else failed the test. But you take it later. Yeah. You get to take it later. But I was a trainer from the very beginning, all the way up through the last one that Apple did. I haven't gotten involved with the Future Media Concept ones yet, because I'm not really teaching anymore. I taught down at Boston University. Boston University had a place in Georgetown, Washington, an extension. And they had a photography, audio, filmmaking, and whatever. And I taught their advanced filmmaking class. Of course, it was all Final Cut Pro. And as a trainer, but I'm so fussy about stuff. When I teach a class, I prepare for weeks, and I have my notes. And I have references, and I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this, because I don't want to be caught at somebody asking a question I don't have the answer for, as much as possible. I actually trained Wolf Blitzer's editing crew one time in D.C. on a weekend because they couldn't come in during the week. Right. That was Final Cut Pro 7 days.
Yeah. Well, it was similar to the college I was teaching at in St. Paul. It was visual communication careers. So we had video, photography, web design, graphic design, 3D animation all together under one umbrella with some core classes that everybody shared and then specialty classes. It was a 2-year associate degree. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I always liked teaching. I'm trying. The community college that I taught at in Westminster, I taught there for just part-time for a couple of years. And I developed the whole curriculum. And I'm trying to get them to let me do a new course, which is mobile filmmaking.
Oh, yeah.
On iPhones. and Androids and iPads, and, try to keep it as agnostic as possible. They said that they don't have that much interest in video production anymore. I said you would absolutely have interest in a mobile filmmaking. Right. Yeah, mobile, because everybody does it. TikTok, YouTube, whatever, Facebook. And I said, I'll write the curriculum, but it belongs to me. I'm not writing it for you. You're not going to get it when I'm done. It's going to be mine. And I'll teach it. What do you have to lose? So I'm still trying to convince them to do that. I just do it part-time, maybe teach 1 or 2 classes a semester. So we'll see if that.
Yeah, training stuff is tricky. Everybody kind of thinks they can do it themselves. Especially nowadays with media. I mean, the photography department struggles because everybody has a really great phone and thinks they can do all the senior pictures and wedding pictures themselves.
Well, that's a bunch of nonsense.
Oh yeah, you and I know that.
Yeah, in the sense that I wouldn't let somebody who took a carpentry class build a house.
Right.
Okay. I don't care if you've got a hammer and a saw and you took a class in college. No, I want somebody that's done it for 20, 30 years. That's who I want to build my house. Same with the mechanic. I don't want to make. You took a class at college to learn how to do this? No, I want the guy that's been doing it with grease on his hands for 20 years.
Right.
So, yeah, we both agree on that. So we have a couple comments about your cookbook. Final Cut Pro Cookbook is more practical in terms of electronic form. We can bring it with us on our devices too, absolutely. Plus, I like a physical book, but I like my iPad because I can search. Oh, yeah. I can search with the PDF. I can search through the whole thing, make notes and everything.
It's kind of the best of both worlds. I mean, a lot of people will say, well, I'll just look it up on YouTube, but maybe it's short, it's just that little bit, and what's the follow-up? And then, they're talking, you got to keep pausing it because they're talking faster than what, you're following. But with a book, I mean, or like you say, a PDF, Kindle, you can read the part, understand it, and then move on. You don't have to try to feel like you're keeping up to how fast they're talking.
And sometimes they're just plain wrong. I'll give you an example. They are, because I'll give you an example. I was watching, because I watch a lot of DaVinci Resolve tutorials to learn how they do things. And the guy kept saying, oh, you go up to this hamburger menu. Go up to this hamburger menu. No, it's not. DaVinci Resolve does not have hamburger menus. They have a meatball menu, which is 3 dots. Oh. They don't have the 3 lines, which is the hamburger menu. They have the ... which is the meatball menu. But he kept saying that over and over. Right. Don't you? It's not a hamburger menu. At it? Yeah. It's not a hamburger menu. He just took just a generic way. But anyway, that's just one of the little things. I see people make mistakes all the time. I've made some, I'm sure, in some of mine, and I try to correct them if I can see them. I'll put a comment, I didn't do this right or do whatever right. So we just got somebody that bought your book, though I have access to a lot of video tutorials from Larry Jordan, Mac Pro Video, and Repl Training. I do have it as searchable text as well. So the idea is video tutorials are really cool, but a book is another layer of learning. Yeah, different, it's a different way of approaching it. A lot of the same material, the video tutorials are great, but this is, another way. And it's just another good resource to have around. No, absolutely. I always especially I got my iPad Pro, the largest one that came out last year, M4 or M3, whatever the heck it was. And I got it for LumaFusion, first off, and then second off, I like to read books in bed when I go to sleep, and I just have the iPad there and put my AirPods in, and I can just do what I want to do and read stuff or watch YouTube videos. So Simon says he loves Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Of course, we call it Final Cut Pro Junior on this show. But listen, there's nothing wrong. If I like Final Cut Pro, I never bought it, never did it yet because I'm so against Apple doing a subscription service that I won't support them in that regards. But I talk to the people who do it at the Creative Summit and stuff, but it's just a little pet peeve of mine.
Right.
For $4.99 subscription, your customers want to buy a perpetual license. Listen to your customers. If you don't listen to your customers, you can have both. You can have a subscription and a perpetual license. That is listening to your customers. But if you don't give your customers a perpetual license, you're not listening to them. If I had a perpetual license, I would buy it. I buy all the camera apps that come out on this thing, with the exception of I stopped Filmic Pro when they went into that big, horrible subscription thing. But I have a dozen pro camera apps on here. Yeah. Blackmagic is probably one of the best. It's free. The native camera app is fantastic because you can switch cameras and lenses while you're recording. Oh, and they do it almost seamless. The other apps all struggle with that feature because when I'm filming live, I'm always using one of four different. I'm punching back and forth, zooming in, zooming out. Right. A lot of them you have to stop recording, select the lens, start recording again, including Final Cut Camera.
Okay, because I use the Final Cut Camera a lot, but I haven't tried switching lenses. So you're saying you have to stop and change the lens?
Yeah, it's a 3-step process. Stop the recording, find the lens you want, start the recording again. You lose 2 and 3 and 4 or 5 seconds. The native camera app, you don't lose anything. It just does a quick, very smooth zoom, and you can keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Blackmagic has it as well, but Blackmagic has sometimes little glitches or black frames at the switch. I can deal with that if I have that option. I can deal with going in and, editing those out. But I got to have that feature when I'm doing live stuff, when I'm filming live. If I'm set up in a studio, no, I don't have to. I just do a stationary shot, a couple shots. But when I'm live, which is a lot of my stuff, I got to have that zoom ability. And I brought that up to them in person at the last Creative Summit, and they shook their head. They know, but it's more difficult because of all the different settings that Final Cut Camera has. But here's my wish. Apple has announced a new Pro camera app. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, they have a new Pro level camera app coming out with the iPhone 17 Pro. Please don't take away that switching of the camera lenses. That would be the worst thing you could do on that new camera app. Make sure that camera can do that switching live of the camera, because that's one of the main reasons I use it for. So, yeah, they've announced that. Me too. I hate subscriptions, as our friend. Let me see. Good morning, Matthew Pate. He's on our Facebook groups. So not only do we do these on YouTube every Saturday, right. 220 some. We also have Facebook groups. We have Final Cut TV Radio and Final Cut Pro Tips and Tricks, which is probably my biggest Facebook group. Right. And we have both of those people. We talk during the week on that. So Simon says he also must pay. He hates that he has to pay a subscription. I'm not going to do it. I don't need it. I got Final Cut on my Mac. I got Final Cut on my Mac Mini. I got LumaFusion on the iPad, and LumaFusion runs on an iPhone. I can edit video on an iPhone with LumaFusion. One-time price, no subscription. Now, they do have add-on packs. But they're, once again, one-time price, and you don't pay anymore. So LumaFusion is $29, $29.99, something like that, normal. A lot of times it'll go down to $19 for like Black Friday and NAB. Last year it went down to $9 for like about a week. $9, one-time price, and I tell people about it. Just buy it. I don't care if you don't use it right now. Just $9, come on. Perpetual license, you don't have to worry about a subscription. And it's a great, great application. I hope that at some point you can buy without a subscription. Me too, because I would buy it. I'd buy almost everything for the phones and stuff. I would buy a perpetual license. Listen, here's the best perpetual license. Buy it. You have upgrades for a year. Okay? Upgrades for a year. At the end of that year, you don't get any more upgrades, but the app continues to work at that level.
Right.
Okay. The app continues to work at that level. I have multiple Waves plugins do that. And then there's Topaz Video AI does that. And there's a couple of other ones. I think Hedge Offshoot, I use that the same way. It doesn't stop working at the end of your subscription. You can use it at that level. When you need an update, you got to pay a subscription for one more year, whatever. But the ones that stop working at the end, when the subscription runs out, like Adobe Premiere is horrible with that stuff. Your app stops working. You can't edit any of your videos if you don't pay them for the rest of your life. I'm not going to do that. So here's a question for both of us. Are either of you into 360 cameras? You use 360 and Final Cut Pro. DJI just came out with their 360 camera. I saw that, 8K. An 8K 360 camera. Wow. Matthew, are you using a 360 camera? Are you, Mike?
No.
Do you use one?
We did a lot of GoPro stuff at school. I wanted to get the 360 camera. Couldn't quite swing it budget-wise. But right. No, I know the Final Cut 360 editing's been in there for quite a while, but no, I haven't experienced that.
I did a video when they did 3D text, came out 3D text, and I don't have any problem with 3D text. I have a problem with them touting 3D text as the top feature, because that's and I made a joke. I did a takeoff on Glenn Ross when the guy brings out the first prize is a Cadillac, the second prize is steak knives. And I did a little compilation of that. First prize is performance and enhancements. Second prize is 3D text, because they touted that as their top feature, and it's just no, that's not a top feature. That's like a little whatever. But anyway, so I don't know if 360 and the Vision Pro stuff is, I don't think that affects most of the people.
Those are different. But yeah.
I might try Final Cut for iPad when I get another iPhone, or for 2-camera setup, but I can only actually record in ProRes, often use Magnetic Mask. Yes, Magnetic Mask is phenomenal. I just used that just recently. And Matthew says...
Oh.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, I've got something to show you with the Magnetic Mask when you're ready.
Oh, we're going to do that after this comment.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the new DJI one. It's going to be September before it will ship, leave the whole current DJI USA situation. So I'm waiting on, I'm a big DJI fan, except their gimbal. I don't like their gimbal. Like the Insta360 Pro 2 it's better gimbal. But the DJI Mic 2, I'm waiting on the Mic 3, and the DJI Action 5 is a phenomenal action camera. It's absolutely great. So let's go over to your PDF. And what page am I going to go to first?
404, not to be confused with a blank video page. A blank web page, excuse me.
404. This is it.
404. And that picture is actually from the previous text finding tracking objects. But this reveal text animation recipe is for making a text sandwich. Here's our recipe. Okay. So if you just flip to the next page, basically what we're going to do in this particular recipe is I pick some footage that flows through the screen.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where you've got something or somebody, a bus or whatever it is, that goes through the screen and reveals some text or reveals a logo or reveals an object when it goes through there. And it's always kind of hard because you think, well, you used to have to use the draw pen tool and cut out the whole thing. Well, the magnetic mask is fantastic. So in this recipe, what we're going to do is make a duplicate clip by doing the option drag up, and then we're going to apply the magnetic mask to the top layer. So then go to the next page, right? So then we click the eyedropper onto that particular object, next page, and it finds that object. So you can see in the two screenshots, we're going to mask that item and then basically delete the background behind it. But because it's two clips on top of each other, the background is there from the previous clip. Okay,
Right.
we can go to the next page. And so then we're going to put some text on there. Go to the next page. Of course, Mike is cool. And then put the text between the two. So it's a text sandwich. So now the result, if you go to the next one, the top layer is just the motorcycle. The bottom layer is the motorcycle in the background, and our text is in between it. So you can pick whatever footage you've got, but that magnetic mask is kind of the key that just makes it work so quick and easy.
And they improved the magnetic mask in March when they came out with 11.1.
Yes.
It's some kind of machine learning enhanced version or something. They made it even better than when it came out last year.
Right.
Have you ever been to the summit, Creative Summit?
I have not. I was really close to going, but I wasn't able to swing it. So yes,
it's a phenomenal celebration of Final Cut Pro enthusiasts from around the globe. It really is.
Way back in the day, Apple would have sort of summit meetings, at their local branches, and there was a pretty big active branch in Minneapolis, and we met several times. And I remember one particular event, they were asking about multitasking in the OS and going, would that be OS 7? It was a whole new interface and multitasking and so they would talk about all their software, but I remember talking about the operating system in particular at that particular kind of regional summit meeting.
Yeah, we used to have, before they had the Creative Summit, we used to have Mac Business Solutions in Gaithersburg used to bring in Apple people because they sold all Apple hardware. And I remember one time when Final Cut Pro 10 first came out, the Apple presenter, I won't mention the person's name, did a presentation, and Final Cut crashed in front of everybody. And when it came back, it didn't go back to where it was. It just went back to a generic timeline. That was a little embarrassing.
Right.
But yeah.
Wow. Did you ever attend Macworld?
No, I did not. I didn't start going to the West Coast because I'm on the East Coast until 2016. NAB, and then in Vegas, and then Cupertino with the Creative Summit. And I've gone every year that they've had them live, except I didn't go to NAB last year because the NAB doesn't interest me as much anymore because the only reason I went to NAB was for Final Cut Pro stuff.
Right.
And 2017 and 2018, the Final Cut Pro team did presentations in the Convention Center Hall for the public. They 2017 and 2018, the Final Cut Pro Apps team did a packed house presentation in the Convention Center. That's when in 2017, they announced 2 million users. And in 2018, they announced 2.5 million users. Now, the first time, 2017, of course, I was in the audience. I was also streaming the event live on Facebook.
Right.
I didn't ask permission. I just did it. Next year, they said no filming and no streaming live, et cetera, et cetera. But because I was filming that, I got them when they did the 2 million announcement. And that video's got like 7,000 or 8,000 views on YouTube, just that little segment I put up. And then 2019, the Final Cut Pro team member was on the Faster Together stage. So that's 3 years at NAB. But after COVID, you can't find a trace. Nothing. So the reason I went to NAB was because of Final Cut Pro. If there's no Final Cut Pro activity or the Super Meet, I would go for the Super Meet, but that's gone too. I don't want to just go through vendors and have them give me their pitches and blah, blah, blah. I got to have bigger events going on to get me to go to NAB. So
when I worked at Anderson Windows on a Macintosh product that they had at lumber yards called the Window of Knowledge, we were invited to take our app and demonstrate it at Macworld. This would have been the mid 90s, early 90s. And that was pretty spectacular. It was in Boston, I believe. And my little claim to fame is I had Guy Kawasaki sign my Newton.
Very cool.
Yes.
I never met Steve Jobs, although the very first Apple store opened up about 60 miles from here in Virginia, and Steve Jobs showed up there. And boy, if I had known, I said, of course he's going to be there, because I was working in D.C. then. I worked construction, and I could have just went to that side of the Beltway and went to that Apple store, and Steve Jobs was there, and I missed the opportunity. But I did meet Steve Wozniak. I did meet him. We had an Apple Core. They had a group in Maryland, Maryland Apple Core, CORPS. Right. Yeah. And they invited him, I think, for the 25th anniversary, so I got to meet him. And I filmed some of that and stuff. And I do have a copy of the very first Macworld magazine. Oh yeah. I have a copy. I still have a copy of that. I didn't buy it. Actually, my stepdad, it was his. He had a Mac before I did. I didn't get involved in computer until the late 90s. I had a recording studio, all reel to reel, and I ran it from the 80s and the 90s. And I just didn't need computers. I got this. And then I started filming the bands that I was recording. And then I started, I got to get into this video editing stuff. So Right. So let's get back to your book after this comment. In 2005, I bought a Mac just because Final Cut and the main motivation. Even today, that's why I don't want to switch back anymore. Of course. Nobody is making you switch back on this program, that's for sure. So yeah, the magnetic mask I use it now a lot of times, and that's a very clever trick that you have. The text, what do you call it, title sandwich, text sandwich?
Yep, text sandwich.
Text sandwich. And so when you were doing this book, did you learn anything that you were surprised that you didn't know?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, some of it was the details. When you're teaching, beginner, intermediate, Final Cut, there's only so deep you can go, and then you kind of release the students and they get going on their own. So when I would be, going through some menus or something like that, or maybe it's like the audio enhancement, inspector window, I'd explain what certain things were, and I, kind of could do it off the top of my head. And then there were a few other ones at the bottom. I thought, I wonder what those do. And so, yes.
Exactly.
You can't just say, well, you just can't skip them. So, yes, I would do a little research and be able to explain, what all these other ones did. And even though maybe I didn't get into how to use it, I needed to at least explain what they were and some things like that. So
exactly. So let's go to someplace else in your book if you want to. Do you have any other place you want to go to?
Well, yes, and I'm trying to think of the.
Well, let's do this. Do you cover the clips we were talking about earlier? What do you call those?
Adjustment clips?
Clips, yeah, because people are a little confused.
That was the here. In fact, if I can look on my copy and tell you exactly where to go. If you go to page No, let's go. Oh, why is that not showing the thing? 243.
243. So I'm scrolling through this in Ecamm Live. It lets you go on to the PDF and you can choose a page that you want. Is that the right page? Oh, there, yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah. So,
Oh, wait a minute. That says 220?
stacking a. Oh, that's. Oh, yes, but that's the PDF page. Remember because it has the preface and everything. So
Okay.
your PDF page is different than the print page.
So
Yeah,
is this
good.
okay? Just the page you want?
This is good. So if you scroll down a page,
Oops, let me.
so it runs. So it might be a little bit hard to see, but basically, yeah, you take from the effects menu, and you can add the adjustment clip or the keyboard shortcut of Option A. Just creates a adjustment clip above that, and so in a sense, it's like a title. Where
Right.
it lands, in that it's above that, and adjustment layers. A lot of people have made their own plugins for this, and we understand this type of thing from Photoshop,
Sure.
but it applies whatever you want, whatever sort of effect and all those different things in there, color correction, everything, applies it to anything that's underneath.
Yeah, exactly.
rather-
So it used to be,
Yeah.
it's like a blank title, right? A layer, adjustment layer,
Yeah.
like a blank title. You take the title out and you have a, but the clips are a little bit, they're better. So I use them more
Yeah.
often than I use the adjustment layer sometimes, but the clip is better. This is one of those things where I was surprised. This is, when you're thinking about updates to Final Cut Pro, nobody had adjustment clips on their dance card. Okay.
Yeah, well, actually, if you talk to Mark Spencer at Ripple Training, it was on his dance card. He made a
Oh,
big
was it
deal about
really?
this.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. But the interesting thing I wanted to get to a little bit later is how adjustment layers are applied. So we'll just scroll down a little bit and look at some of the pictures. Okay, so there's just basically showing how to
What the
add
heck
it in
going
there.
on there?
Okay, keep going down, Richard, because this is pretty basic. You just
Okay.
drag the effect into that. And now what we're showing is, whoops, go back one. So you may be familiar with adding effects in the inspector window.
Right.
The inspector panel, I should say.
Yes.
There, I'm trying to get my terms right. So in the inspector panel, it goes from the top down. So if you have a blur and then you have a glass block, is the example I use, is it going to blur everything, including the glass block, or is it going to blur the, just the clips below? And so
Right.
up in that, I'm going to get my finger, up in that inspector window, it goes from the top down.
Right.
But interestingly, and that's one of the things I learned in kind of working my way through this, is that in the timeline, it works from the bottom up.
Oh.
So in a sense, you think of it as the primary storyline is applied.
Right.
Then maybe if you've got a connected clip above that, that's applied. And then your first adjustment clip, and then the second adjustment clip. So in this particular screenshot, the top adjustment clip is black and white, and that's why everything is black and white.
Oh, okay.
But if you go to the next page, I have flipped those around, and now the aged aged paper is last.
Okay.
And so, it goes from the bottom up, the skateboard clip, then the black and white, and now the aged paper. And so everything is aged paper.
Now, when you change, I don't even know when you change them on the timeline, that doesn't affect the order in the inspector, does it?
No, they're not in the inspector.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just the effects. I got you. You're right. If you had an effect, it would be the inspector.
Right. And so it's kind of, and I have these two recipes are one right after another, where first we go through and we talk about how in the inspector it goes top down, and now here in the timeline it goes bottom up.
That's very interesting. I never even thought about that. I mean, you learned something, right?
Right. And the fun keyboard shortcut of Option arrow will move a layer up or down. So you don't have to drag it or try to get, everything is magnetically moving around. It will just, take one and move it one position for you.
Absolutely. So let me see something here. I'm going to pull this up. Let me close this. Close this. And we are going to go here. Look at that. Now I got to get you on here. I got to do a duplicate and then pull you up. Hold on one second. I didn't prearrange this. There we go. So there's the book on Amazon. Look at that.
That's right. Number one new release.
Number one new release. And the actual, so I'm not going to post this link. Just go to Amazon.com and search Final Cut Pros. You and then our friend Ian Anderson wrote a book for years ago, and this is the cookbook. So
right, not a tutorial start to finish. Brendan Boykin wrote a beautiful Final Cut Pro series. And I think his comment's going to be in there pretty soon, saying, that this is a, cookbook with recipes that is, great to just, find that one little effect that you're looking for.
Absolutely, I love tips and tricks. I mean, that's the main thing.
Right.
When I do tutorials, whenever there's a new feature in Final Cut Pro, magnetic mask. I was going to say text-based editing, but we haven't got that yet. Animating audio for transcribing audio. Whenever that comes out, you have a dozen people come out and do the same tutorial on YouTube. All the majors, they do the exact same tutorial. Now, usually Ripple Training is first because they obviously have an advanced copy, so they can, and plus they have time to do a great one because Steve and Mark are phenomenal at what they do, and there's other people as well. The two Dylans, Dylan John, and then Dylan Bates, right? The Final Cut Pro, they do tutorials as well, and then the woman that does them, I forget her name.
Oh yeah,
I'll think of it. And they're all doing the same tutorial within 10 minutes. What I try to do is pick up either little things that they miss, little details that they miss, or less obvious tutorials. I don't want to do one on the magnetic mask. There's a dozen people already done it, and they do a great job. Jen Jager. Yeah. Thank you, James. Jen Jager.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's really good as well. So the two Dylans I met at NAB, Dylan John and Dylan Bates, and I've met Jen at the Creative Summit in 2023 when I caught her after she did a tutorial, and I was filming her, and I said to her, now I'm filming you in Apple Log. Is this the first time you've been filmed in Apple Log? And she goes, yes, it is. This is the first time I filmed in Apple Log. ProRes Log, I'm sorry, ProRes Log.
Right.
Just a little joke. So Jen Jager, yep. So they all do great when they first comes out. They first comes out, there's a whole bunch of people. But I'm not interested. That's not me. I like to do little things that are missed or little details that need blowing up. And that's what I like doing. Although I have a couple that are, my most popular YouTube videos got 32,000 views, and that was, I did guidelines in Final Cut Pro natively 10 years ago or whatever. I did guidelines inside of Final Cut Pro, and I showed you how to do them. And that's probably my most popular Final Cut Pro video that I've ever done. So, iJustine do some Final Cut Pro stuff? Yes, she does. We met iJustine. She's been at 2 creative summits. Absolutely. She's got millions and millions of views.
I've got an old green screen clip of iJustine in the book.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. She's my
very
green
good.
screen example.
All right, let's go back to the book. Is there anything? Let's go. What else? Anything special? I mean, I've only started reading it, and I love, like I said, I love tips and tricks. So, and there's only a couple Final Cut Pro books out. That you and Ian Anderson is also a friend of mine, who, by the way, we're doing Aussies in August. Final Cut TV coming up. We're going to have the Aussies, Chris Hawking, Ian Anderson, Lee Herbert, and then now our friend Philip Hodgetts, who moved from the United States back to Australia. So we're going to have those 4 on in August, coming up in a couple of weeks. Probably not on a Saturday, though, because the time zones are just, I don't know what Australia's doing with time zones. They have 5 time zones. This has killed me. And one of them is a half hour different than the rest. Not an hour, 30 minutes different than the rest of them. I just say, here's the time I want to do it. You guys do the time transition.
Yeah. Instead of you trying to send it. Yeah, a lot of the PACT publishing folks are in India, and it's like 11 and a half hours different for me. And I think what they did is they instead of daylight savings, they just said, okay, we're going to do half hour different and leave it. Which
might from 12
might be a solution.
Yeah, but no, Australia's 14 hours. So I can't do 12, and then it goes into the next day.
Yeah.
So if I'm in the afternoon here, it's morning the next day there. I got to make sure I get the right date. No, here's the date I'm going to do it. Here's the time I'm going to Eastern Standard Time, U.S. Eastern Daylight Time. You guys figure out what the heck day it is, and then we'll go from there. So anyway, I've had the Aussies on 7 or 8 times so far, and I've had Philip Hodgetts on a dozen times or more. But since he's back in Australia, we'll put him on with the other Aussies this time as well. So that's coming up. Aussies in August.
That's great.
So what else do we want to do? So
well, I was just in general about the book. You're talking about tips and tricks. It's not just real scattered. I mean, in some ways, it does kind of go through in a logical progression. Okay. So, it starts with the interface and just starts with talking through, what is the magnetic timeline, and some fairly basic things, workspaces. How do you set up and use workspaces and things like that? And then it talks about using the browser window and organizing clips in the browser. And I would always talk to my students about the fact that, your probably best job is an assistant editor. Coming out of college, you're going to be an assistant editor. And that is organizing everything for the senior editor in the browser window. You may not even put anything into the timeline. You've got to get, everything consolidated. with ratings and keywords and all those different. So it goes. So chapter 2, I think, goes through and talks about getting yourself organized in the browser window using the list view, using the column view, adding columns, rearranging columns in that view, and getting yourself. I mean, in some ways, I'm telling them, if you go through, because there's a column for, you can do take and shot. And you can go through it and kind of line up your whole feature film, shot by shot, and select it all, shortcut E and put it down in the timeline, and you're done. You can, really organize a lot just in the browser window, event browser. And so then we move on from there, and then we'll start talking about the timeline, connecting clips, sculpting clips in the Final Cut Pro timeline. So, and that's one of the metaphors, getting away from maybe cooking exactly. We have a lot of good cooking puns.
Right.
It's like, editing's like sculpting. You got a great big chunk of video, and you narrow it down, you refine it, trim it, smooth it, just like that. And so then we get, your rough edit, get a little more refined using the trim tool, things like that. So it does, it's and not just scattered little, odd tips and odd little tricks. It has a bit of a flow to it.
Absolutely, I would expect no less. Yes, how many pages? It's a lot of pages. 500.
514 something. It gets so big because of the screenshots.
Right. No, of course. 514. That's what it says.
There's a lot of words, but it starts getting bigger when you've got multiple screenshots in there. But I appreciated the Pact people and their little, format of their books, and it all fit together. I thought it looks good. I thought it looked organized. Sometimes I had different things that didn't quite fit. They weren't really like a Final Cut Pro step or where they were.
Right.
And so they have some different categories. How to do it. More information. That some little tip highlights, and I thought their format ended up being really nice.
So there's a couple of funny things about Final Cut that I found humorous over the years. Number one, they used to have some colors in the browser. Then when they did color in the roles, they took the colors away from the browser. So it's like, is there a zero-sum color allotment you're allowed in Final Cut Pro? That doesn't make any sense. People do this. They do this all the time. Oh, just use an emoji to sort in the browser. Put an emoji at the beginning, a banana, a yellow banana, or a red apple, or a green check mark, and put that at the beginning of your title, and then you can visually see those things in the browser. No, it's not the emojis. It's color. If the emojis were all gray, they would be useless to you. What you're doing is you're doing something that's missing in Final Cut Pro. Look, LumaFusion has it. DaVinci Resolve has it. You can color code clips, red, green, yellow, blue, purple, and you can sort by the color.
Right.
You can sort in the browser, just highlight the search field and choose red, and all the red clips come up. And you can search by blue, and all the blue clips come up.
Yeah.
And we're visual people.
Oh yeah.
We respond to people using emojis. It's not the emojis, it's the color that's missing in Final Cut. You should be able. Why? Okay,
Right.
the other Pro app, Logic, has a much more expanded color palette, And when I'm doing an hour-long thing in Logic, and I have an hour-long podcast that I'm doing, I select this group of clips, and I Option C, picking up the color palette, and I click once, and all those clips are color-coded. So I can visually see in the timeline, this group of clips is Sam, this group of clips is Serena, this group of clips. Visually, it's a much better system. Final Cut is so restrictive, and their color palette is so dull. It's like a earthy, crunchy California color palette, and some of the colors look like they're the same to me, in my eyes. You know,
it's an orange or a burnt orange.
Exactly. So please borrow Logic's color palette, for guys. It's still restricted, and people say, "Oh, I don't want Final Cut Pro to look like Skittles." I don't care what you want. Okay. Right. Don't use it if you don't want it. People used to say that about the scrolling timeline. I don't want the scrolling timeline. You can turn it off.
Right.
You can turn it off. Okay? I want it. I use it 90% of the time.
I want Skittles.
People always say that. Oh, I don't want Final Cut Pro. That's fine. Don't use it. I do want it. I want distinctive colors, not these one color fades into the next. So anyway, just borrow. I always say the other Pro app, Logic Pro, take them out to lunch, steal their color palette. And let us color code clips in the browser, for gosh sake. That can't be that difficult. For some reason, they don't want to.
Have half the team take the Logic people out to lunch. The other half of the team sneak into their office.
Exactly.
Steal their code.
Add that, and I want them to get the keyframe editor from Motion in Final Cut. That's a fantastic, sophisticated keyframe editor. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Or the object tracking between Final Cut and Motion. It's not a face. You got to object track and get the 4-pin corner pinning.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I'm working on a film, and you just can't do it in Final Cut. You got to take that segment, go over to Motion, fix it, put it back into Final Cut.
Now, since you mentioned that, Final Cut Pro 7, you could add a Motion project to the timeline.
I know.
And you could right-click, open in Motion, make your adjustments, save it. It's updated in Final Cut Pro in the timeline.
Yep, I remember that.
Great. People loved Final Cut Pro, which I did too. I mean, I started in version 1, but I was on Premiere for the Mac first.
Yeah,
because I didn't. Yeah, were you? Yeah.
Well, I think before Final Cut came out,
Yes, that's
Premiere had the running horse on the disc.
Yes, and there was Medium 100 back in those days, and that was $100. I mean, $1,000 or whatever the heck it was. Well, Final Cut itself, the studio suite was $1,000, $1,200 when you bought out the whole studio, and you got the DVDs. Now, as a
great big book.
Yeah, as a trainer, we got NFRs, not for resale versions when the updates came out. So we didn't have to buy them. So. We love Final Cut Pro. That's what we're doing here on Saturdays.
That's right.
Now, tell me, what would you like to see? Give me a couple, 2 or 3 of your big features that you'd like to see in Final Cut over the next year or so. I mean, if we're lucky, we're going to have a Creative Summit in November, and the Apple team the Final Cut Pro team will probably have a big update, 11.2, whatever, at that point. What would you like to see?
I think, like you're saying, the text-based editing to be able to go through and find a particular paragraph or sentence and just, add those to the timeline as a rough edit. That, at the beginning of my book in the introduction, or maybe it was on the Amazon page, I like to talk about that. Final Cut Pro can do 98% of what 98% of the people need. And talking people is just, the bread and butter of, earning money in digital video.
Yep.
It's not super flashy. It's, It's the thing that's going to earn you money, and being able to take just from you know exactly what they said and just take that and drop it in the timeline. I guess that'd be number one.
Yeah. Because like I said, I used, so when I text-based edit in Resolve, it has a whole text document that you can save as a text document with time code. You can search it, you can, whatever. I find a paragraph that I want, and I have the E key append to end. From Final Cut Pro, I brought it over to DaVinci Resolve. So I select it, hit the E key, it goes to the end. Select it, hit the E key, it goes to the end. And I can build a rough cut. But otherwise, you got to watch it in real time. Mm-hmm. You got to listen and watch the video in real time. You can't, or maybe double speed, but you can't look through text and say, there's a bunch of ums and ahs here, skip all that and just go down to here or whatever. Or this subject I don't want to talk about because it hasn't been released yet. It's so much better. It's for long form. For long form.
Right. And even, in my book, I talk about how to get your left hand on the keyboard and do your, JKL, in, out, E, try to do it. But that's going to take all that whole time of listening to it and finding those clips. You know what I wish could happen, and maybe you would know anything about this, is on a camera, while the camera is recording, to hit one button that would make some sort of
marker,
make like a highlight. Here's a good take, and then you can go back through the footage and have that come through, time, date, camera name, and here's these marks.
Well, I think there's an iPad app that you can do that. Producer's Best Friend or something like that you can watch as it's being filmed. Yeah. Not using the iPad camera, but using the iPad as a logging device. And you can hit marker, and place notes, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it even syncs with time code from the camera.
Right.
So there's an app. I'm not sure if it's Producer Best Friend or one of those. It'd probably be by our friends Philip and Greg from Intelligent Assistance. And so they have that, but on the camera itself, I don't know if that exists or not. I'm a Panasonic person, Lumix. I have a Lumix S5 Mark IIX, which I love, the full frame. I have my camera here is a GH5. Then I had, before that, I have a GH4. So I stuck with, I was going to switch when I went from the GH5 before I bought the Panasonic. I said, I got to buy new lenses. So if I switch to Sony, it doesn't make any difference. But Sony's was years behind. I think their A7S III, they hadn't updated it for 2 or 3 years, and I'm not going to buy technology that's 2 or 3 years old when I pay for a new camera. So I just bought the Panasonic S5 Mark IIX. It's phenomenal. Low light, full frame, 6K, either 16:9 or open frame, and it's a really, really nice camera. Yeah.
Yeah. We had a lot at the college. We had a lot of Canon lenses, and kind of we're going with Canon. Well, they had photo department. I had Nikon and Canon, but had some nice, really big Canon lenses. So we went really wonderful grant for Perkins 5. Perkins 4 is a really great federal program that works with technical degree areas, and got some great grant money, and we had 7 C100s fitted out with lenses and tripods, and it was just perfect for the students to learn on.
Absolutely.
Really, yeah.
Let's go back to your book.
Canon could just push a button.
That'd be, or a remote control these days, right?
Well, that'd be, or your phone. Your phone could talk to it.
There you go. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
You don't want to bump the camera.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. Whenever I film, I have, when I'm holding the camera by myself, I'll hold it like this. Okay. Yeah. It's nice and steady. I have the record button set to record right here. I bring my camera up. So I hold it like this, or I'll do, so if I want to steady it, I'll do this. But usually I use a gimbal. I like a gimbal a lot. I have the Insta360 Flow Pro 2. Phenomenal, Great gimbal. Lightweight, portable. It hits. I can put it mounted magnetically. Just slap it on and it goes magnetic, or I have a clamp. Either one. If I have a something plugged in here, it won't balance on the magnetic because this is meant to be center. So I have to use a clamp, like an audio interface or something. But yeah, I usually shoot with that. But if I'm just pulling out of my pocket and shooting, I'll just do this. And if I have to steady a little bit, I'll do that. And of course, I have monopods. So let's get back to your book before we, because that's what we're here for.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. Does anybody out there have any questions?
Yeah, if you have any questions, see if Mike covers it in his book. Otherwise, I'm just going to pull up some random pages. You just tell me. Here's page.
Multicam.
Multicam. Yeah.
Got a nice little trick. Yep. This is one where you lock in the music. I mean, it's kind of tricky if you don't know. You got to select all and, of how you're going to edit, lock in music, and then change it in that upper corner there so that you've just clicked on the little film strip. And that selects what's going to cut. So your main audio stays the same, and now you're just cutting the visuals. And that's usually what you do with the music video, right? You've got your CD version and a little boombox, and you act it out as you go. And so now you want to lock that in as the primary audio, and not, you can't cut, the video and audio. You just want to cut the video. So you found a good page there, Richard.
Well, here's something else. And this is something that bugs me and other Final Cut Pro editors, is even though you select film clip, it still cuts the audio in the multicam.
Don't.
And if you have an effect on that audio, it produces clicks and glitches at the edit point. People have been complaining about that for years. Don't cut the audio if you're just cutting the video, but for some reason,
there's something
it still does it. It on the timeline, it still cuts the audio as well. Now, LumaFusion.
10:52 a.m.
The LumaFusion has a multicam module you can add to it.
Yeah.
I think it does six tracks of video and has a dedicated audio track that's not touched.
There you go.
It's a dedicated locked audio track that no matter what you do above, that audio track remains. So if it's a dialogue or music, it's not touched. So.
Because it's a different track.
Yeah, it's a dedicated audio track. They have, I think 6 video tracks and a locked audio track. You don't have to use it, but if you have music video or whatever, but Final Cut still cuts the audio even if you're just cutting the video, it still cuts the audio. Now,
that's your pros and cons of timeline versus tracks.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a good question for us for right now. You can answer this. Can you also find the book on Apple Bookstore? I don't think you can you?
No, I don't believe so. I wasn't told anything about that from the PACT people. P-A-C-K-T, PACT. Their website sells the book, but I think they kind of pretty much figure everybody's in the Amazon system, and that's where they're primary selling.
And that's both, that's not just Apple. It's Android and stuff. So it's a wider market.
Kindle, yeah.
Kindle, yeah. I Kindle's fine. I usually go to Apple Books first, but Kindle's fine. I use Kindle all the time so as well, especially if there's a sale price on Amazon for the book and it's a sale price on Kindle. I'm not going to pay full price on iBooks when it's available on Kindle for less. So anyway, that's your answer, Simon. Simon's our friend from Italy. I met him at the Final Cut Pro Creator Summit last time. I think it's the first time he's gone. So here's the deal with the summit. We don't know. There's been no official word if there's going to be a summit in 2025. I'm hoping there is. But the little bits of information I've got, I don't know. I don't know for sure. If I had to place a bet, I would say yes, but I wouldn't place that much. I'd place $10 would be the max that I would place. A couple cups of coffee, right? Usually I'd bet a cup of coffee. That's at Starbucks or whatever. So when I go to the Creative Summit, I bring my own coffee setup. I grind my own coffee before I go, enough for the days. I bring a stainless steel pour-over kettle, electric pour-over kettle. I bring an AeroPress, little 1 cup at a time. It's a great tasting coffee. And I now have a water filtration system that fits on top of this stainless steel pour-over kettle with a Brita filter. I made one myself. So I can use tap water. One time, it was at the Creative Summit, probably it may have been 2019. And I walk across the street where the shopping center is, and they have one of those fancy food markets over there. They charge you twice as much for everything, but it's organic and everything. And I brought, I always carried a case of water back to the hotel room for my coffee and at nighttime drinking. And it was the worst tasting coffee I've ever tasted. And the problem was I bought spring water.
Oh, okay.
And the spring water made the coffee, I finally figured it out. The spring water made the coffee taste horrible. It was whatever salt or whatever the heck was in it. So now I don't do that. I just use tap water and get a Brita filter and pour it through that way. But I couldn't figure out why does coffee taste so bad. And it was the damn spring water. Don't get spring water. Just get generic bottled water if you're using it for coffee. Heck with that spring water.
Yeah, I'm a coffee snob too. I've got a mocha pot, so a little espresso stovetop mocha pot that I do every morning.
Absolutely. Listen, gets me out of bed in the morning. I'm sitting there sleeping. I get up very, very early because I go to bed early. I get up this morning at 2:30 a.m. because I go to bed at 7.
Yeah.
So it's 7.5 hours of sleep. I'm ready to go. But what gets me out of the morning? Coffee.
Yeah.
Get up. I got to feed. I have a couple of cats. I got to feed the indoor cats, and then I make that coffee. Get that coffee started, please. That's getting me out of bed. Absolutely.
We have a coffee podcast here instead of we do coffee live.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
coffee
at 2:30 in the morning. You got to tune in at 2:30.
Yeah. Well, I get up, like I said, I go to bed early, so I get up early. I've been doing early rising all through the 90s because I worked in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And I used to get into D.C. at 6 a.m. to start the day. I would be there at 6 a.m., which means I had to leave here at 4:45 a.m., which means I had to get up at 3 o'clock or whatever because I'm not a rusher. When I get up, I don't want to rush. Take my time, mosey into the day, none of this rushing around. I like to just ease into the day. So I've been doing it since all through the 90s and the 10s and now in 25. I'm completely used to it, and it's completely fine. I have no problem. We got like 70 people watching live right now. Is your family watching, and they're going to say, "Hey, we saw Mike on TV on
I think
YouTube."
we're waiting for the recording. I think they don't want to interrupt. So
No, well, they can interrupt. That's fine with you. That's completely fine. So let's go back to your book once more. See if I can pick another random clip, unless you have, a random page, and we'll see what we got. So that multicam is a great tip, by the way. I like that. That's people, I use multicam for syncing. I don't use the AV sync that they have in Final Cut. I use the multicam for syncing AV clips. I use it all the time. Even if I don't use just the basic, add audio to video or whatever. I use multicam. I use it for all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that I do, I shoot with my camera, and this is supposed to be a new feature on the new iPhone 17 Pro, where you shoot with 2 cameras at the same time. Okay? 2 lenses. So I shoot, when I'm interviewing somebody, I have one camera facing me recording in 4K, and the other camera's facing the person in front recording in 4K, two separate files. There's an app. I have a couple apps that does that. It's supposed to be native in the new iPhone 17 Pro. So when I do that, when I shoot the two things, I reduce my frame to a small frame and have the main person as the main frame. So what I do is I'll go to the multicam clip and I'll set it up so it's a small frame, and I'll copy that clip in the multicam container, and I'll go back to the timeline and paste it above the multicam. So I have more options than just doing it in multicam, because it's a separate picture-in-picture. It's a separate picture-in-picture, and I turn it on and turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. But it gives me more options than just switching in the multicam. So I do that a lot. But I'll copy it from the multicam container and just paste it and line it up with waveforms, or I'll place a marker and stuff. So
That's cool. Yeah, to have that native would be really great.
yeah, it would be. It would be. So I'm going to pick another random page. I'm just going to pick. I got plenty to choose from.
You go ahead. There's our. You picked the version we talked about earlier with the effects applied in the inspector window.
Yes.
That's from the top down.
So one of the things that in the new version of Final Cut is you can name your color effects. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Right.
Isn't that just common sense from the beginning? That should have been around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you can name a plus reorder. But the other thing was, as a matter of fact, I'm going to bring this up because it always tickles me. Let me see. I leave some of these up. Let me pull this up in my MacBook. So I leave some of these up. This is my top 101 requests for Final Cut Pro in 2025. And one of the ones that I just always like that they did, there's a scrolling timeline. I left it up because it was number one. I said, finally, after all this time. Yeah, it's obviously. Because did you know that Motion has a scrolling timeline and always has?
Yes.
Yeah, but Final Cut Pro didn't, but Motion had one. Huh?
Yeah. And GarageBand.
Yeah, exactly. Logic, GarageBand. Anyway, so people didn't know it was in Motion. This one kills me. You can scrub a compound clip in the browser. You can scrub a multicam clip. You can scrub a regular clip, but you can't scrub a project clip in the browser. But you can scrub a project clip in the share window. But you can't scrub it in the browser. What the heck's going on there? It's like, just little things like that are just really peculiar to me. You can open up the share window and you can scrub a project. No problem beginning to end. But you can't in the browser.
That is.
Let me just get that one thing I wanted to show you. Oh, this is another one. Why don't we have opacity fade bars for video clips in the timeline? Just like the audio.
Right. Yeah. You have to do that funny sort of animation
lane
layers. Yeah.
Yeah. But just right there, just click on it and drag it like you do the audio. But there's one here there's Logic Pro colors. See, look at that nice color palette Logic Pro has.
Nice. Yeah.
Very nice.
Skittles.
Exactly. We don't want Skittles, they always say. Here it is. Here's what I had. 38. Drag a customized effect from the inspector to a clipper in the timeline. And I even did a graphic and showed this has been on the list for years. It's been on the list for years. I just get a kick out of that when they actually do exactly what's on this top 100, top 101. I think I have 90 some. It's not really 101. So.
And just one, I think I've got just a couple little steps to show that. That was one of the things that always got me when I was teaching And of course, the older it got, the less effect it had. But someone had recorded the the Apple event when they announced Final Cut Pro 10, and they were demonstrating the copy of the effect, where you just could copy the color from the one clip to the other, and the crowd is going wild, and
Right.
yet in the Final Cut Pro book, the thing that you do is so simple. It's like 2 or 3 lines. And I try to explain to the students that, it used to be this long, arduous process where you had to maybe do a screenshot of something and side by side, and you're trying to manually adjust the color to match. Yeah,
Right.
match color. And now
Right.
it's just, in the book, it's just 2 or 3 steps. Doesn't, seems pretty inconsequential. But so something like that, like you say, it's a huge effect. It's taken them years and years to do, and yet it's just one little picture demonstrates. It's as easy as this, but it's taken years to implement.
Absolutely. It's just, some of the things are just head scratchers. So, do you remember kenstone.net?
Oh, yeah, I loved that one.
Yeah. So, here it is.
Yeah.
I wrote the very first Final Cut Pro article.
Oh, look at that.
I beat Steve Martin. I wrote the very first Final Cut Pro article called The Rundown on May 16th, 2011, before Final Cut Pro 10 came out.
Right.
And it went through.
And there's the cars. There's the image of the other. There's the one. Yeah, the car sunset. There it is. That's
Yep.
the one I would demonstrate. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep, I wrote the very first one. Because I used to write for Ken Stone fairly regularly and also LAFCPUG. When that was up, I used to write all their Final Cut Pro 10, or a lot of the Final Cut Pro 10 articles.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. And I hung on to and used that, the Audi cars. That was some great footage to let the students cut that back and forth.
Absolutely. So it says, nice you can get apps that can record in 4K on the front and back cameras, but I also like to be able to use 2 rear cameras. That's correct. That can record in 4K on the same iPhone. Double Take did 1080p. I thought Double Take did 4K. I have the legacy version of Double Take. I thought it did 4K because I film everything in 4K, but I always output in 1080p. I mean, everything I do. And of course, our friend Daniel says audio roll-based mixer, of course. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, there's some Final Cut Pro proponents that will say, you don't need that in Final Cut Pro. We got a plug-in for it. I don't want a plug-in. I want these things native. I want these things native in Final Cut Pro. Scrolling timeline, Chris Hawking had a workaround that used something in his one of his thing. But no, I want it native. I want it native. Right. Text-based editing, I don't want a plug-in. I want it native, Final Cut. Right. We're going to get what we're going to get. If you stick with Final Cut, you're sticking with the Final Cut Pro team. By the way, I want to give them a round of applause because they watch this live stream every week. There's some people on the team do. See, I always say that, but it's, I know some of them do, because I get little comments once in a while that say, okay, well, you're watching the show.
Well, maybe they'll give a review for my book.
They'll probably put it on their page, right? Don't they have? Yeah, because I'm on there for 2 different things. I got the Final Cut Pro Radio podcast and also, FCPX.TV, my Final Cut Pro website that I started as soon as Final Cut Pro 10 was announced, FCPX.TV. And then I did the radio podcast a couple years later. I started it, and that's been going on. I don't do it that much anymore because there's not much to talk about. There's not a whole lot of new stuff, right? And I enjoy this YouTube thing better. Yeah. It's more fun every Saturday morning and whatever. But I'll cut different versions of this up, do an audio podcast. I'll be doing one later this month. So.
Okay.
Oh, he says now he just re-downloaded his first double take and it does do 4K. That's what I thought. I thought it did 4K.
Okay.
So that's good. So that does the two cameras, and you can use two front-facing cameras, like, for a 5X zoom and a 1X zoom or a wide shot. Yes. I use a free one called Road Capture right now. It works pretty well, but you got to watch it because I've had a couple times where it just stopped recording. And you have to start it up again. So you have to pay attention to that. Do you film a lot yourself?
Yes. It was one of those things where it's kind of hard to do while you're, busy full-time teaching.
Right.
But kind of just for fun, the last few months I've been working with the outfit that does the corny, goofy commercials for local businesses at the movie theater.
Okay. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's been a blast. And I've just used my iPhone, on a tripod and that's been pretty fun. But yeah.
So I need two iPhones. Okay. I have two iPhones and I have a DJI Action 5 camera. And I have a 4K drone, but I don't use it that much. But my main cameras are my two iPhones and my DJI Action 5. So I keep the last two generations. So this is a 16 Pro Max, and I have a 15 Pro Max.
Yeah.
When the 17 Pro Max comes out, I'll trade in my 15 Pro Max on that one, and then I'll have the 17. Exactly. Okay. I need two. When the way I film, and I have my Lumix S5 Mark II X too, that when I have bigger shoots and stuff, I'll bring that. It's great low light camera. It's really, really nice. It's full frame and 6K,
Yeah.
But I heard the 17 that doesn't make any sense. They say 8K. I don't. A little teeny sensor is going to go 8K. I mean, it doesn't make it. I don't know how they're going to do that if it's true. But, 4K minimum, 6K would be nice. They also said it might be an 8K zoom this time instead of a 5K, so increase it. They have that periscope lens in the iPhone. It's not a straight lens out. It goes up, down, up, through a mirror, periscope. So each time it gets bigger and bigger, and I guess they can optically go. That's what they're saying, 8K. We'll find out in a month or so.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, I suppose optically is a little bit better than just trying to do it in software.
Yeah, it's much better. It's much better. Although
mirror wise, I don't know.
Well, this has it too. This has the periscope lens. So okay. I don't really know anything. I don't notice anything. I mean, it looks fine to me. It's just that the sensor's so small on the phone. It's not, they do a lot in software. They do a lot in software as well as hardware. It's not one or the other.
Right. That's true.
That's good old Apple.
Software's made the big enhancements. Yeah.
And this is a good point. 8K imagine data rate and storage space needed. Absolutely. I got a one terabyte 1 terabyte storage. I always get that. But then I have these tiny little things, the Crucial,
right?
4 terabyte.
Oh, I
4
know.
terabyte. And I can record onto this with my iPhone directly if I want to. But usually I just record on the phone and then transfer it to this either with the phone or my MacBook Pro. When I'm out shooting for the Creative Summit, or used to be NAB, I would always have backups. I keep a copy on my phone. I empty my phone out before I leave, keep a copy on there, transfer a copy to my MacBook Pro, and then transfer another copy to one of these. So I have 2 of these, so I have 8 terabytes. It's like nothing. It's like nothing. The size is like minuscule.
Right.
So, yes, you will need 8K. You will need. I don't think you can get an 8K on a 256 terabyte drive. You'd fill it up in like 10 seconds.
I know.
especially if you
Yeah.
if you shoot ProRes, especially, or ProRes log. The data rate is just, I mean, as you expect, it's very high quality, so it takes up a lot of data. Absolutely.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's, you and I have lived through those days of the prices of megabytes going up and down, the disk space being so precious.
Absolutely. My first Mac,
Now it's just this little tiny thing.
it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah. My first Mac was a beige G3, not a tower, a desktop beige G3 that I still have. And I knew nothing about computers in those days. I just paid Pro Max of California. Here's what I want. Give me Premiere for the Mac on there. Whatever you recommend, ship it to me and let me start it up, and it just works. And it did, of course. But I knew nothing about computers other than a little bit of MIDI stuff that I did with my reel-to-reel. I still have my reel-to-reel decks. I got to sell them because I'm not using them anymore. And there's a big market for them. People, they have they have Facebook groups with 50,000 or 30,000 members, reel-to-reel decks. I don't use them. I don't want them to go to waste, so I just want to sell them as is and let people. I've digitized all that stuff over the years, so I don't need to digitize anymore.
Right. Yeah, my first Mac, I had a Mac 2. It was the flat desktop, and I had a 19-inch black and white monitor.
Wow.
Enormous.
That's big. That's big.
Doing spreadsheets. Yeah, I learned how to do Excel, and I was doing spreadsheets at this manufacturing plant. And we were 8 megabytes of RAM. Oh, we were so cool. Oh man, they're flying. And then I was programming, and then I got into HyperCard. So I was programming HyperCard stacks with dithered pictures. I made an interactive thing about this manufacturing plan marketing piece with dithered photographs of the plant. And man,
you were flying. Cool. You were flying.
Yeah.
So let's just, before we sign off here, let everybody know it's on Amazon, of course. Final Cut Pro Cookbook. And do you go into Final Cut on the iPad at all, or just stick on the Mac?
No, just on the Mac.
Okay, good. I'm only kidding. I know the people on the Final Cut Pro team. To me, it's not as powerful as the Mac version. And so the last, when it first came out, it seemed like they were going to do feature parity between the two. Well, I did an article that found 50 features that the iPad version didn't have that the Mac version had. Since then, at the last Creative Summit, they said, no, feature parity is not important to us. We're just going to do, they're like diverging. Well, for example, Multicam Studio on the iPad.
Oh, yeah, right.
You can't do that on a Macintosh? Of course you can. I'm doing it right now. I've got Multicam. I can switch screens on the Mac. They're intentionally holding features back just for the iPad.
Right.
To make it more, which is fine. As soon as they give me an ability to buy it outright, listen, let me pay $49 for it and give me 2 years of updates. Okay? At the end of the 2 years of updates, I still can use the app. I just don't get the updates beyond that. That would be fine. And give people the option. Give people the option of subscription. Don't cram subscriptions down their throats. That's what I object to. Now, saying that, the iPad subscription model is superb. Number one, it's only $4.99 a month. Number two, you can cancel it, start it and cancel it on your phone.
Right.
You just go into iCloud subscriptions, start, stop, start, stop. You don't have to run it 12 months. If you're going to use it for 1 month, start it for 1 month. It comes on. If you're not going to use the end of the month, cancel it. It won't charge you the $4.99. So their model, first off, $4.99 a month is very, very cheap. So it's a great model. But still, I'd rather give me the option to buy it, a perpetual license, and I'll buy it. I'm not going to. I have LumaFusion. I'm not buying the iPad version. So.
Well, they're listening to your show, so hopefully they're going to
They are.
take your advice and do this.
I doubt it. Well, sometimes they do. We've seen evidence. I presented evidence to the court that
Exactly.
they've
Your Honor,
barred some.
here's the evidence.
Here's the heavy evidence, which is fine because I did it for the Final Cut Pro team to have a list, everything in one place. As a matter of fact, Steve Bays used to be on the Final Cut Pro team. And when I met him in 2016, that's when they had the 2016 MacBook Pro. Is that the one? Yeah, I think so. And they had the new MacBook Pro came out the day before. Then we were at the Creative Summit. It might have been 2017. I think it was 2016. But anyway, we got to go to one infinite loop, is where the Final Cut Pro team was then, not in the spaceship campus. And Steve Bays was in the edit suite with the MacBook Pro, and he had some big monitors up there. And I walked in there, and I said, "How you doing, Steve?" I said, "Richard Taylor." And I shook his hand. He goes, "Your reputation precedes you." That's what he said. Because FCPX.TV had the top list and everything. And I always do it try to do it in a positive way. I'm not a derogatory and negative kind of person. So I try to do it humor, number one. Everything to me has humor, and you can find it. And then positive, even if it's a little bit of criticism. So.
Yeah. Well, we're big fans. Yeah, it's, been with the Mac for a long time, so we're not changing.
That's right. Absolutely. All right, Mike, I've been on for 2 hours and 21 minutes. You've been on probably most of that, probably about almost 2 hours. Do you think that's enough, or do we have to do any more promo?
I think we got them. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So Final Cut Pro Cookbook, we'll do that one more time over there on Amazon, or you can go to Pact. But Amazon's easier. We'll just use the Amazon link.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then give it a good thumbs up review, of course.
Kindle's on sale.
Oh, is it? Where's the Kindle?
Yeah, if you click on the Kindle one.
I'm looking at my screen. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Look at that. Wow, 20% off. That's fantastic. That's a great price. That's a lot of work. That's a year, probably more than a year of your life.
17 years teaching. Yeah.
Yep, 17 years teaching. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's inspired all those students. What they were getting wrong. Now, in some lessons, they're patiently, with a little humor, some cooking puns, right? It's a cookbook, so we've got some cooking puns in there.
Absolutely. So, do you belong to our Tips and Tricks Facebook group, I think, don't you?
Yep.
So, yeah, you can also join the Final Cut TV radio Facebook group if you want. And where can people find you? Do you post your contact email or something, or don't want to bring that up because you're in witness
LinkedIn,
protection?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So I think it's Mike Eddy FCP@gmail.com.
Okay. Very cool. So people have any questions, but they can probably contact you through the book somewhere.
Well, they can follow me on the author page on the Amazon.
Okay. There you go.
The Amazon.
Exactly.
The Facebook.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna get out of here and get something to eat for. What time is it? Oh, 12:24 here at this time.
Yeah, you've been up for hours.
Since 2:30 this morning. 2:39 this morning, actually. But that's okay. I've got plenty of energy. Had my second cup. I usually have 2 cups of coffee. We're waiting on Final Cut Pro 11.1.2, whatever that is. Yep. Bug fix, maybe throw a feature in. And we're waiting on the Creative Summit because we don't know.
Right.
I can't say any more than that, but I'm not confidence. My confidence level is right in the middle about whether we're going to have one. I hope we're going to have one in November because that's the biggest Final Cut Pro event of the year, worldwide. It's the biggest worldwide. It's the only Final Cut Pro event where people from all around the world come over here and meet the Final Cut Pro team. They're at the Spaceship Campus. They allowed us. Finally, we got to the Spaceship Campus in 2023. We were promised earlier summits, and at the last 2 weeks before the event, they pulled it off the website, and we ended up going back to One Infinite Loop in 2019. So before they promised us, they said we were going to the Spaceship Campus. We didn't get there until 2023, which was last year. So, and then 2 years ago, and then last year we got there as well. It's phenomenal. See it in person. It's just like it's like a giant spaceship. It's over 4 stories tall of curved glass, the biggest curved glass panels in the world. And they said, I don't know how they do it. They said that glass is cleaned every night. Now, it can't be a bunch of robots. It's got to be some kind of ultrasonic cleaning, I would suspect. But it's phenomenal space. So, Final Cut Pro team, first off, we'll give you accolades. Once again, get us back to that Creative Summit. I'm sure, hopefully, you're working on it in November. And
I'll come as your hard drive assistant.
There you go. Fantastic. All right, Mike, it's great talking to you. We'll have you back on again, and I'll bring the book on other episodes as well because I'd like to promote. Yeah, absolutely, like to promote Final Cut Pro stuff. And you hit it a good time. August, there's nothing going on in the world of Final Cut Pro that I know of. This is it. Yeah. Final Cut Pro Cookbook. Fantastic. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye.